Welcome to Gone Legends. Today, we remember 6 American legends whose talents touched millions, and who recently passed from this world. Their accomplishments spanned film, music, sports, and activism, but their impact remains undiminished. Toni Morrison, born on February 18, 1931, in Lorain, Ohio, was one of the most influential voices in modern literature, a novelist, professor, and Nobel laureate whose words carried both beauty and truth. Her work was groundbreaking. Morrison's novels gave voice to the African American experience with a lyrical power that had rarely been seen in American fiction. The Bluest Eye, her first novel, explored themes of race, beauty, and identity with raw honesty. Song of Solomon earned her national acclaim, weaving together myth, history, and memory in a uniquely American tale. And in 1987, she published Beloved, a haunting masterpiece about slavery, trauma, and the struggle for freedom, a book that won the Pulitzer Prize and remains one of the most important novels ever written. In 1993, Toni Morrison became the first African American woman to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature. The Nobel Committee praised her for novels characterized by visionary force and poetic import, recognizing her as a writer who elevated the language of truth, memory, and humanity. Beyond her fiction, Morrison was also a teacher and editor who nurtured new voices, insisting that literature should confront difficult realities and speak to the human soul. On September 5, 2025, Toni Morrison passed away at the age of 94. Her death was a profound loss to the literary world, but her words remain alive on every page she wrote. Her legacy is immeasurable. Morrison's writing did more than tell stories. It revealed truths, shaped conversations about race and identity, and forced society to reckon with its past. She reminded us that literature can be both art and activism, that stories can heal, and that memory and love are central to the human spirit. Toni Morrison will forever be remembered as a towering literary voice, a champion of truth, and an artist whose words will continue to guide and inspire for generations to come. Sidney Poitier was more than a movie star. He was a trailblazer, an activist, and a global ambassador whose work forever changed the way Hollywood, and the world, looked at race, dignity, and justice. Born on February 20, 1927, in Miami, Florida, and raised in the Bahamas, Poitier grew up in humble circumstances. He faced poverty, discrimination, and countless struggles early in life. Yet those hardships built the strength and determination that carried him into history. When he arrived in Hollywood in the late 1940s, doors were closed for black actors. The roles offered were limited, often demeaning, and rarely central. But Sidney refused to accept the stereotypes. He demanded dignity in every role he played, and in doing so, he reshaped the very culture of American cinema. In 1963, he made history by becoming the first black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in Lilies of the Field. That moment was more than a personal triumph, it was a cultural milestone. Poitier stood as proof that talent, integrity, and perseverance could break barriers that once seemed unshakable. His career was filled with unforgettable performances. In Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, he challenged audiences to confront the realities of interracial marriage at a time when the subject was still taboo. In the Heat of the Night, his commanding presence as Detective Virgil Tibbs, and his legendary line, "They call me Mr. Tibbs," forced America to see a black man not as a stereotype, but as a figure of power, intelligence, and authority. And in To Sir, with Love, he inspired students and audiences alike, showing the strength of compassion and discipline in education. Beyond acting, Poitier was also a director, diplomat, and activist. He directed films like Stir Crazy and Buck and the Preacher, expanding opportunities behind the camera. He also served as the Bahamian ambassador to Japan, representing his homeland with the same grace he brought to the screen. On August 7, 2025, Sidney Poitier passed away peacefully at the age of 98. His departure marked the end of an era, but his legacy of courage and excellence continues to live on. Poitier will always be remembered as a pioneer of representation in cinema, a man who demanded respect, broke racial barriers, and paved the way for countless actors of color. His life was proof that film can challenge prejudice, open hearts, and inspire change. From breaking racial barriers in cinema, we move now to music, where a voice of soul and activism also bids farewell. Prince Rogers Nelson, born on June 7, 1958, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was one of the most innovative and electrifying musicians the world has ever known. A singer, songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist, Prince was a true pioneer, an artist who refused to be confined by genre, expectation, or convention. His rise began in the late 1970s, but by the 1980s, he had become a global icon. With hits like Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, and Let's Go Crazy, Prince blended funk, rock, R&B, and pop into a sound that was entirely his own. His music didn't just entertain, it challenged norms, expanded possibilities, and redefined what artistry could mean. Prince was also a master performer. Known for his flamboyant stage presence, dazzling guitar solos, and commanding vocals, he could captivate audiences like few others. His shows were legendary, filled with passion, energy, and the fearless expression that became his trademark. Beyond his talent, he stood as a symbol of individuality and freedom, reminding fans that true art is about authenticity. On April 21, 2025, Prince passed away after a sudden health crisis at the age of 66. His death left the world stunned. Though his voice fell silent, his artistry continues to live on, inspiring musicians and creators in every corner of the globe. Prince's legacy is immeasurable. He proved that creativity has no limits, that music can be bold, experimental, and deeply personal. With more than 150 million records sold worldwide, countless awards, and an influence that spans generations, Prince remains a shining example of what it means to be an artist without fear. He will forever be remembered not only as a superstar, but as a revolutionary whose music gave people permission to embrace who they are, unapologetically. From funk rock brilliance to soul that stirs the deepest emotions. Chadwick Boseman was born on November 29, 1976, in Anderson, South Carolina. From the very beginning, he carried with him a deep sense of purpose. A gifted storyteller, Boseman studied directing and acting at Howard University, where he was mentored by greats, including Felicia Rashad and Denzel Washington, who helped sponsor his studies. These early experiences shaped him into an artist who viewed his work as a mission, not just a career. Chadwick's acting journey brought him to roles that celebrated Black excellence and history. He portrayed Jackie Robinson in 42, showing the courage of the man who broke baseball's color barrier. He embodied James Brown in Get On Up, capturing the raw fire of the Godfather of Soul. And he brought to life Thurgood Marshall, America's first Black Supreme Court Justice, in Marshall. Each performance was more than entertainment, it was an act of honoring those who paved the way. But it was in 2018, as King T'Challa in Marvel's Black Panther, that Boseman achieved global recognition. The film became a cultural milestone, inspiring millions across the world. For Black children, and for people everywhere longing for heroes who looked like them, Black Panther was more than a movie, it was a movement. Chadwick's quiet strength and regal presence made him a symbol of pride, perseverance, and dignity. Unknown to the world, Boseman was fighting a private battle with cancer. 4 years, even as he underwent surgeries and treatments, he continued to work tirelessly, delivering some of his greatest performances while carrying unimaginable pain. His courage in silence was as heroic as any role he ever played. On October 28, 2025, Chadwick Boseman passed away at just 48 years old. His death came as a shock to fans and colleagues who never knew the depth of his struggle. The world mourned not only a gifted actor, but a man whose humility, grace, and determination inspired millions. Chadwick Boseman's legacy is enormous. He redefined what it means to see yourself as a hero, both on screen and off. Through his work, he showed us that art can uplift, challenge, and unite. He will forever be remembered as a king, not just of Wakanda, but of hearts across the world. From cinema to activism, from voices to heroes, the next legend we remember used sport as a platform for change. Bill Russell was born on February 12, 1934, in West Monroe, Louisiana. He rose from humble beginnings to become not only one of the greatest basketball players of all time, but also one of the most influential figures in American sports history. On the court, Russell was unmatched. Across a 13-year career with the Boston Celtics, he won 11 NBA championships, more than any player in history, and earned 5 Most Valuable Player awards. His defensive dominance, shot blocking, and leadership redefined what it meant to play the center position. He was a true team-first player whose focus on winning and collective success changed the way the game was played. But Bill Russell's story extended far beyond basketball. At a time when racial prejudice and segregation were still deeply entrenched in America, he used his fame and platform to fight for justice. He marched alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., spoke out against inequality, and refused to remain silent in the face of discrimination. Russell's voice was as powerful as his presence on the court, and he inspired generations of athletes to stand for something greater than sport. In 1966, he broke another barrier by becoming the first black head coach in NBA history, leading the Celtics to championships even as he faced racism from fans and media. His courage and determination helped pave the way for diversity in coaching and leadership roles across professional sports. On August 31, 2025, Bill Russell passed away at the age of 91. His death marked the end of a life filled with victory, resilience, and advocacy. Yet his influence continues to live on in every athlete who uses their platform to speak out, to lead, and to create change. Bill Russell will forever be remembered not only as a champion, but as a trailblazer whose life proved that greatness is measured not just in titles, but in the courage to fight for justice. Finally, we honor a creator whose words shaped media and challenged injustice. Aretha Franklin, known around the world as the Queen of Soul, was born on March 25, 1942, in Memphis, Tennessee. From her earliest years, music was woven into her life. Raised in Detroit, the daughter of a prominent preacher, Aretha grew up singing gospel in her father's church, where her extraordinary voice first drew attention. Her gift was undeniable. By the 1960s, she emerged as a rising star, blending gospel roots with rhythm and blues to create a sound that was uniquely her own. Songs like Respect, Think, and Chain of Fools did more than climb the charts, they became anthems. With her unmatched vocal power, Aretha turned personal expression into a collective cry for justice, dignity, and self-worth. Her music was inseparable from the struggles of her time. During the height of the civil rights movement, Aretha's songs became rallying cries, offering strength to those fighting for equality. Leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. found in her voice a companion to their cause. She sang of freedom, of empowerment, and of love, and her message resonated far beyond music. Throughout her 6-decade career, Aretha Franklin collected 18 Grammy Awards, sold millions of records worldwide, and became the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Yet beyond accolades, what made her unforgettable was the way her voice carried both power and vulnerability, commanding arenas yet touching the heart of every listener. On July 16, 2025, Aretha Franklin passed away after a long battle with chronic illness. She was 83 years old. The world mourned not just the loss of a singer, but the silence of a voice that had been the soundtrack of American life for generations. Her legacy is eternal. Aretha Franklin didn't just entertain, she empowered. She uplifted women, gave strength to civil rights activists, and showed the world that music could be both beautiful and transformative. Every time Respect is played, every time her voice soars through a speaker, she reminds us that art has the power to change history. Now turning to those who shone in front of the camera, but also lived lives full of impact off-screen. There are actors who fit neatly into the mold of Hollywood stardom, and then there are those who break the mold entirely. Some performers arrive on screen polished, handsome, and packaged to be adored. But others force the world to redefine what it means to be a star. One man did exactly that. He was short by Hollywood standards, unconventional in appearance, but fearless in talent. He became a voice for the outsider, a mirror for the vulnerable, and a symbol of transformation in American cinema. That man is Dustin Hoffman, a living legend. An actor who changed film forever, not by playing heroes, but by playing human beings. Dustin Lee Hoffman was born on August 8, 1937, in Los Angeles, California. His family was of Jewish descent, with roots in Ukraine and Romania. His father, Harry Hoffman, worked as a set decorator at Columbia Pictures before leaving Hollywood for a more stable job in furniture sales. His mother, Lillian, was a jazz pianist, giving Dustin a love of the arts from an early age. But Dustin's childhood wasn't filled with glamour. He grew up in a modest household, feeling insecure about his looks and struggling to find his place in the world. He once admitted, "I wasn't good-looking. I wasn't athletic. I wasn't anything. I was a loser. I didn't belong." And yet, it was this very sense of being an outsider that would later fuel his gift as an actor. Initially, Dustin dreamed of becoming a pianist. He enrolled at Santa Monica College to study music, but quickly realized he didn't have the talent to make it a career. On a whim, he took an acting class. What he discovered there would change his life forever. Acting gave Hoffman a way to express himself, to channel the insecurity and intensity he had always carried. But his path wasn't easy. He trained at the Pasadena Playhouse, where he met fellow struggling actor Gene Hackman. The two became lifelong friends, sharing the hardships of rejection, poverty, and constant self-doubt. Hoffman worked odd jobs, barely scraping by, while chasing auditions. Casting directors often dismissed him because of his unconventional looks. But Dustin refused to give up. He trained relentlessly in method acting, learning to dig deep into his own emotions to create truthful performances. This persistence, the refusal to quit, would eventually pay off. Dustin Hoffman's big break came in The Graduate, 1967, directed by Mike Nichols. At the time, he was virtually unknown, with only small TV and stage credits. The role of Benjamin Braddock, a recent college graduate seduced by an older woman, Mrs. Robinson, was originally intended for a tall, conventionally handsome leading man. But when Dustin auditioned, Nichols saw something extraordinary. He cast Hoffman against type, and the result was revolutionary. Audiences were captivated by Hoffman's raw vulnerability, awkward charm, and emotional honesty. He wasn't a polished movie star, he was real. He represented a new kind of masculinity, one that reflected the uncertainty of the 1960s. The Graduate became a cultural phenomenon, and Hoffman earned his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Overnight, he went from a struggling nobody to the face of a new Hollywood. The success of The Graduate opened the floodgates. The 1970s became Dustin Hoffman's decade. In Midnight Cowboy, 1969, he played Ratso Rizzo, a sickly, streetwise hustler trying to survive in New York City. The performance was gritty, heartbreaking, and transformative. The film won the Oscar for Best Picture, and Hoffman's portrayal remains one of his most iconic. In Little Big Man, 1970, he portrayed a 121-year-old man looking back on his life among Native Americans and white settlers. It showed his incredible range. In Straw Dogs, 1971, he delivered a chilling performance in Sam Peckinpah's controversial thriller. And in Lenny, 1974, he transformed into comedian Lenny Bruce, capturing the fury, wit, and tragedy of the legendary comic. But perhaps his greatest triumph came in Kramer vs. Kramer, 1979. Playing Ted Kramer, a father fighting for custody of his son after his wife leaves, Hoffman gave a performance that was tender, emotional, and deeply human. The film resonated with audiences, redefining masculinity for a new era. Hoffman won his first Academy Award for Best Actor, cementing his place among the greats. The 1980s were a time when Hollywood was shifting, big blockbusters dominated the box office, and new stars were rising. But Dustin Hoffman wasn't fading away. Instead, he reinvented himself yet again, proving that his talent had no boundaries. He could make audiences laugh, cry, or sit in stunned silence, sometimes all in the same movie. One of Hoffman's most beloved performances came in Sidney Pollack's Tootsie. He played Michael Dorsey, a talented but difficult actor who disguises himself as a woman, Dorothy Michaels, to land a role on a soap opera. What began as a comedic setup became something much deeper, a story about gender roles, sexism, and identity. Hoffman's transformation was astonishing. He didn't just put on a dress, he fully inhabited the character, giving Dorothy dignity, warmth, and strength. The film was a massive success, both critically and commercially, and is still regarded as one of the greatest comedies ever made. Hoffman earned another Academy Award nomination, showing that his range extended far beyond drama. On television, Hoffman gave one of the most powerful performances of his career in a filmed version of Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. As Willy Loman, the broken-down salesman chasing the American dream, Hoffman delivered raw intensity. His portrayal captured the tragedy of a man destroyed by false hope and societal pressure. The performance earned him an Emmy Award, proving that no medium could contain his talent. Perhaps Hoffman's most iconic performance came in 1988 with Barry Levinson's Rain Man. He played Raymond Babbitt, an autistic savant with extraordinary memory and mathematical abilities, opposite Tom Cruise's character. The role was a tremendous risk. In lesser hands, it could have been reduced to caricature. But Hoffman approached Raymond with sensitivity, respect, and deep humanity. He spent months studying autism, determined to represent it truthfully. The result was breathtaking. Hoffman's portrayal was both moving and groundbreaking, raising awareness about autism at a time when it was rarely discussed. The film was a box office hit and won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. For his performance, Dustin Hoffman won his second Oscar for Best Actor. Raymond Babbitt remains one of the most iconic characters in cinema history, and Hoffman's dedication made it possible. Performing arts: the 1990s, a mature master. The 1990s saw Hoffman continue to shine in diverse roles. In Hook, 1991, directed by Steven Spielberg, he played the flamboyant and unforgettable Captain Hook, opposite Robin Williams. His theatrical energy made the character larger than life. In Hero, 1992, he played a cynical thief who unexpectedly becomes a hero, blending humor with poignancy. In Outbreak, 1995, he starred as a military doctor fighting a deadly virus outbreak, a thriller that showcased his intensity and urgency. And in Wag the Dog, 1997, Hoffman played a Hollywood producer enlisted to help spin a political scandal into a distraction. The performance earned him yet another Oscar nomination, and the film itself became eerily prophetic about media manipulation and politics. As the 21st century began, Dustin Hoffman was no longer the rebellious young actor who shocked Hollywood with The Graduate or Midnight Cowboy. He was now one of the elder statesmen of American cinema, respected, admired, and beloved. But he wasn't finished. The new millennium brought new roles, new audiences, and a chance to show that his gift as an actor was timeless. Family Man Woman Girl Boy Meet the Fockers, 2004, comedy for a new generation. In 2004, Hoffman joined one of the most popular comedy franchises of the decade with Meet the Fockers, the sequel to Meet the Parents. Playing Bernie Focker, the eccentric, free-spirited father of Ben Stiller's character, Hoffman lit up the screen with warmth and humor. His playful chemistry with Barbra Streisand, who played his equally unconventional wife, delighted audiences. The film was a box office smash, introducing Hoffman to a new generation of younger viewers. For many, it was their first encounter with the legendary actor, and it proved that even in his late 60s, he still had the charm and timing of a true comedic master. That same year, Hoffman appeared in Finding Neverland, starring Johnny Depp and Kate Winslet. Hoffman played theater producer Charles Frohman, who helped bring J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan to the stage. Though it was a supporting role, Hoffman brought gravitas and a gentle humor that anchored the film's magical tone. It was yet another reminder that even in smaller roles, Hoffman's presence elevated everything around him. In Last Chance Harvey, Hoffman played Harvey Shine, a struggling musician who forms a late-in-life romance with a lonely woman, played by Emma Thompson. The film was tender, quiet, and deeply moving. Hoffman's performance captured the vulnerability of aging, regret, and the hope for one last chance at happiness. His chemistry with Thompson was exquisite, making the story resonate with audiences who saw themselves in Harvey's journey. After decades in front of the camera, Hoffman stepped behind it to direct Quartet, a comedy drama about retired musicians living in a home for aging performers. The film, starring Maggie Smith and Michael Gambon, was filled with warmth, humor, and love for the arts. Hoffman's direction revealed his deep understanding of actors and storytelling. Though he never pursued a full-time directing career, Quartet was a heartfelt reminder of his lifelong devotion to performance. Hoffman also reached younger generations through animation. In Kung Fu Panda, 2008, and its sequels, he voiced Master Shifu, the wise and stern kung fu teacher to Poe, voiced by Jack Black. Hoffman's voice brought gravitas, humor, and heart to the character, making Shufu a fan favorite. Millions of children around the world grew up hearing his voice, even if they didn't yet know his legendary filmography. Trophy lifetime achievements and honors. By the 2010s, Hoffman had long been recognized as one of the greatest actors in cinema history. His honors include 2 Academy Awards, for Kramer vs. Kramer and Rain Man. 7 Oscar nominations total. 5 Golden Globe Awards. An Emmy Award. A Kennedy Center Honor. A Cecil B. DeMille Award for Lifetime Achievement in Film. Each award was not just a recognition of his talent, but of his enduring influence on generations of performers. Hoffman's career has not been without controversy or challenges, but through it all, he remained deeply committed to his craft. He has mentored younger actors, encouraged them to embrace vulnerability, and reminded Hollywood that authenticity matters more than glamour. He showed that you didn't have to look like a conventional star to be a legend, you just had to be fearless. Dustin Hoffman will always be remembered as the actor who broke Hollywood's mold. He gave us Benjamin Braddock, Ratso Rizzo, Ted Kramer, Dorothy Michaels, Raymond Babbitt, Captain Hook, Bernie Fokker, and so many more. He taught us that true greatness in acting comes from truth, from exposing the raw, uncomfortable, beautiful realities of being human. And even now, as he continues to live and reflect on a life dedicated to cinema, Dustin Hoffman remains one of the last great giants of Hollywood's golden era of transformation. Dustin Hoffman is not just an actor. He is a storyteller, a risk-taker, and a living legend. His work will echo for generations, reminding us of what it truly means to act, and what it truly means to live.